Todd McFarlane is sending out shockwaves. Here's your look at the new McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Batman Beyond's Shriek Unmasked. Walter Shriek was a skilled audio engineer living in Neo-Gotham, trying to fund his research in the field of sonics. Unable to do so, Shriek used his highly advanced sound technology to build an armored suit capable of demolishing buildings with sonic blasts. Going by the name Shriek, he was soon hired to destroy Batman and nearly succeeded, but he lost his hearing in the ensuing battle. He was sent to Blackgate Penitentiary, where he was able to continue his research behind bars. Since then, Shriek has managed to break out on occasion, each time seeking revenge against Batman and wreaking havoc on the citizens of Neo-Gotham. Before we spend some time with Walter Shriek, I'd like to thank the folks over at McFarlane Toys that kindly provided this sample of Unmasked Shriek that we could have a look at in this review. Seeing after all he is a villain, a criminal from Neo-Gotham, it probably would make then some sense to compare him with the crime fighter from Neo-Gotham. So let's bring in the futuristic Batman Beyond, a figure that we looked at earlier. Shriek not only is notably taller, but a lot bigger and bulkier than the Cape Crusader here. I love that Batman Beyond. At some point, I would love to get my hands on the one that actually has the mouth guard across his mouth. But to be fair, I think the one of the two, I like the one with the visible mouth a little bit more. And let's maybe compare him with a little bit bigger of a Batman. Let's bring in the one that we looked at just recently, just adjusting his leg. Here he is next to Batman 3 Joker's Batman. It was roughly about the same sized figure. If anything, you could say that Batman is just a tad bit taller due to the points of the ears of his cowl. When it comes to the figure's accessories, though I really wouldn't consider it an accessory necessarily, he comes included with a trading card. The trading card once again has Shriek depicted here, but this is the figure photography of the character. You know, something I would love to see is them doing something down the road, something a little bit different. McFarlane Toys and McFarlane himself is a talented artist. I would really love to see what he could draw out for his interpretation of Shriek. That would be kind of a fun thing to do with future trading cards. But what we do get here instead is Shriek with, of course, his sonic attachments. Those will be the resonating pulses that come out from his hands. Those do come included with the figure. You probably even see them right there. And then, of course, on the back, real name is Walter Shriek, and then gives you the read-up that I listed or said at the beginning of the review. Let's put that to the side. The figure also comes included with a display stand. I can't imagine how many of these I have by now, but they're all the same display stand. So it seems to be something that's settled on the surface of it. But as you can see, there's the DC logo branded down below, and there's one singular peg at the top corner that will attach to the underside of the figure's feet. Moving those to the side. The figure also comes included with these circular frisbee discs of sonic waves. You can see the sculpting of them is really nice. Not only are they just ringlets, but you can see how they jet out in these little points, like it's pulsating sonic waves. You can also see as well, there's a couple little slots. Several slots. There's actually 4 squares and a smaller circle on the one side, and the exact same on the other side. These will attach to his hands. I'll show you how they work right now. Simply just take the figure. And if you look at the hands, actually, each one of the hands are these little points. And those points, as you can probably guess it, will fit then onto, providing you get the right one. They'll fit then into those slots. And you really don't even need to get every single one in there. If you get at least enough of them, it's more than enough to keep things in place. Sometimes I find the thumb doesn't always stay in there. Sometimes I may only get 2 or 3 of them actually slotted in there. But like I said, it's more than enough to keep the disc in place. And then we can do the exact same thing here on the other side. Again, making sure you've got the disc facing the right way. That's ever helpful. And then just slot everything in place. Lining everything up certainly helps as well. And then those just slots. Why am I having such more of a difficult time with this one than I did the earlier one? Like I said, those just, there we go. I got a couple. I got most of them at least. Let's spin the figure around. Sometimes if it's more helpful if you flip it this way, and then you can kind of guide each one of the fingers into those slots. There's 1, there's 2. Oh, there's this one. That's the stubborn one right there. That's not letting me put that in. There we go. And now that I've, of course, done it with the one side, let's go back and just fix the one that I did earlier. This one was actually the easier of the 2. There you go. That's what it looks like. It does give something a little extra to be looking at when you certainly have the figure on display. My only critique I could say about it, though, is the way they've got it on the hands. Now, you can have it spun this way. I'll just take the one off for the time being. You can have it spun this way. You can bring it kind of up like, as if he's got like cymbals. The thing about it, though, is that the hands don't angle upward. It would have been nice if they had actually put a little hinge joint right here. We'll talk more about that when we get to the articulation of the figure. They actually have just ball joints on here. So you sort of have to kind of bring the hands out. If you want to have it facing towards something, it helps to actually bring the hand around like this. Because if you try to bring it up this way, you're not going to have, there's not enough clearance. See what I mean? It would have been nice if they had actually put a little hinge joint right here where you could actually arch the hands straight up as if he's firing off the sonic blast. Let's go ahead and remove those for the time being. We'll put those to the side. Now, this is Unmasked Shriek. There is also a masked version of this guy as well. McFarlane Toys were kind enough to send over the unmasked variation, but I certainly will be tracking down the masked version of him. I think generally consensus for me, at least when it comes to displaying these figures, I'm going to be more on the lookout for the masked versions of the villains rather than going the unmasked approach. But I will say, though, to the credit of the head sculpt, it is a really nice looking head sculpt. Painted pretty good as well. You've got the darker eyebrows. Outlined nicely are the eyes, as well as a little bit of reflection in there as well. He's got himself what would you consider a soul patch down below underneath the bottom of his chin. I guess on his chin, underneath his lip here. I even like the little arrogant smirk that they've sculpted onto his mouth, just sticking up slightly in the corner there. He's got his earring there on to the side, which is actually a sculpted piece rather than actually just painting. And although they did paint the earring in, at least they've sculpted it on top of the earlobe. Yeah, I'm really happy with this head sculpt. A little bit of dark shadowing also goes a long way as well to really bring those features out right nicely here on the figure. Now, being the fact that this is an unmasked variant, I would also certainly toss to the wind the idea that it would have been nice that this figure could have included 2 swappable head sculpts. Now again, I don't mind the idea of going out of my way to get a second version of Shriek if it means that I get the one that has the helmet, and then I have the one that has the unhelmeted head sculpt. But I would at some point like to see them maybe just release a figure where you get 2 versions of the head sculpt. One with this one, and then one with the helmet that you can then just pop this one off and replace it with the one that has the helmet instead. I think probably, and I don't want to make that assumption that everybody's probably going to be sourcing out the helmeted version, but I think a lot of people probably are going to be more interested in the helmet version of Shriek rather than the unhelmeted version. But that doesn't hopefully take anything away from the head sculpt, because I really like the head sculpt that they actually sculpted this figure. As for the rest of his body, now this is very familiar looking Shriek. The large gauntlets that he has on his hands. Some real nice use of translucent blue that they've got on the ends of the wrists here. The hands are quite large. And again, they still have the posability. I do like the way that they've got, I don't know if you can see it right there, but the plastic seems to go straight through. In fact, looking through it, it's like a little eye hole. Oh, there's my hand right there. I like the fact that they did use the translucent blue all the way straight through. The white plastic works well. I've got one little scratch there onto the side, but that's probably just when I was taking it out of the packaging, or it might have even just been in there first place. But the paint's pretty clean on it, what little paint there is. Mostly, you're looking at just a black figure. But even like the black features, something I mentioned when we looked at the Batman Beyond figure, they take the time to actually put in a whole lot of additional sculpting. So while you could say yes on paper, an all black lower interior of the figure, like the lower bottom half of the figure, would all just be stock black plastic. There's definitely a lot to take in here when you're looking at the sculpting. Just really nice work that they put into it. All the way down to his boots as well. Now, when it comes to the figure's articulation, let's have a look at that right now. The head rotates all the way around. It sits again on that ball joint. And there's a fair bit of range, too awkwardly far back. You probably even can tilt the head. You can tilt the head forward. You can rock it back and forth. But again, easily, I think you could have easily popped the head off the ball joint. Probably won't do it right now. I guess I could do it right now. Take the head sculpt off, and yeah, they could have easily just released the figure with 2 head sculpts, one with the helmet, and then just pop the helmet one on instead. Let's pop that back in place. There we go. Then when it comes to his shoulders, you would almost even think that the size of the shoulders would impede the bit of movement. It allows the arms to come out, but actually quite the contrary. They've allotted for enough space underneath it, not to mention that the shoulders are also softer plastic. And when you bring the arms out, you can easily pull off a 90-degree angle bend. You can also then take the arms and rotate them all the way around. He has a swivel, and essentially what it is these shoulders here are attached to this bicep part of his molding. So when you rotate that, you're also going to be rotating the top shoulder area too. He has a double hinge on the elbow, which is nice to see. And then again, when it gets to the hands rotate all the way around. They're on a ball joint. It's a little harder to kind of see that. But again, I kind of wish that they could have put a hinge joint. I mean, you can bring the hands down, but to be able to bring them up all the way, the only other alternative is, yeah, you can bend the elbows up, which might maybe be what I'm going to do. Just bring the elbows up like this and have them displayed. It almost looks like he's sneaking up somebody behind him. I'll probably just then attach these sonic blasts on his arms that way. But if they had only been able to put a hinge joint in there, just to be able to bring those hands out without having to do the bending of the elbows like this. For his upper torso, it is not only on a ball joint here, but he also has a secondary ball joint right at the waist area, like that. Legs split out. It seems also, once again, that they're utilizing ratcheted joints. You bring the legs forward, bring the legs back. There is a swivel, essentially where that's attached to that ball joint. There's a double hinge on the knee. And then when it comes to his feet, they move back and forth this way. They move back and forth this way. And the toe articulation also allows the toes to move this way as well. I like the look of Shriek. I don't know if I would say he's my favorite villain from the Batman Beyond. Notably, though, my favorite villain, I think, from Batman Beyond is Ink. I would love to see McFarlane Toys release an Ink. Let's get Shriek here to stand up properly. I don't mind personally the idea. I don't mind that he's unmasked. I mean, again, this figure probably could have gotten released with 2 different head sculpts. Why am I freeing up space there, by the way, that you're asking, is just so I can bring this guy in once again. Yeah, Shriek could have been released, I think, with 2 head sculpts instead of releasing a variant of this guy unmasked and then getting a helmeted version of Shriek. At the end of the day, I'm going to be still sourcing out the Shriek that has the helmet. I like the look of Shriek really with the helmet. I really don't generally like to see helmeted characters unmasked. I do think, though, despite me saying that, I think McFarlane Toys did a really great job, a really, really nice job on the unhelmeted head sculpt here. And ultimately, when I'm still going to be picking up that other Shriek, I'm still going to want to put this guy on display because, like, the head sculpt on this guy is too good to pass up. Neat stuff going on here with Shriek Unmasked. Still, though, I'd prefer to have the criminal with the helmet on myself. But that's not denying the fact that McFarlane's team really did a great job not only on sculpting of the head, but also the paintwork that they put into there too. I mean, it really makes up the majority of the color that's on the figure, because if not for that, really what you're looking at for the rest of the characters, a lot of white, a lot of black, with just the little hints of blue that they put on his blaster gauntlets, as well as the center area of his torso. Now, speaking of these audio sonic blasts that attach to his hands, sometimes they're a little cumbersome to get the fingers into each one of those slots. I can succeed, it seems, on the one side a little bit better than the other. The side, the hand the arm is up. I have a little more of a struggle, I think, trying to get all the fingers into those slots. But at least they fit in there and they stay in place. I wish that they could have put a hinge joint, though, still admitting on the wrist area of the figure. Because if you want to have the sonic blast facing forward, you sort of either have to bend the elbows or have him sort of looking at it like he's holding it sideways, almost as if he's got symbols in his hands. Other than that, though, I really like the look of this figure, and I hope this isn't the end of what we're getting from Batman Beyond. There's certainly a ton of different characters to choose from. Personally, I have a soft spot for Ink myself. I would really like to see McFarlane's team at some point do a release of Ink. Probably could do different versions or maybe different swappable arms. I think Ink would be a fantastic figure. What other, for your video question for today, what other Batman Beyond villains would you like to see released by McFarlane Toys? Let me know down below in the comments section. And speaking of McFarlane Toys, I'd like to thank the folks over at McFarlane that provided the sample of Shriek Unmasked that we could have a look at in this review. He's going to look fantastic on the shelf next to my Batman Beyond. If you guys are new to this channel and you're enjoying all the content you're seeing, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Turn the bell notification on, and make sure, yes, you're coming back to this channel because we are going to be looking at more McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse reviews. So keep your peepers peeled for that. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.